is that I'm here because I want to give back to the school. I'm very proud to be a Widener Law graduate. You should be very proud that you're going to be a Widener Law graduate. It is a great school. I'm not getting paid to say this. I mean, I genuinely believe it. In fact, I'm paying them, frankly, because I'm still paying my law school loans off, okay? Which, as you know, is like a mortgage payment, or you will soon realize, and hopefully I didn't give anybody any agita. I'm sure you knew that going into it. But it is a great school and a great institution, and I am very, very proud to have gone here. And I think one of the things that when I was here, I was surprised at how many people, when they were here, were complaining and bellyaching. And listen, part of it, it's like being in the Army. I won't complain about being in the Army. But at the end of the day, you should be proud that you're here. You have an incredible opportunity. So I've been very blessed in my time. Since leaving Widener in 2009, I worked in the nation's largest law firm, which is the Army Judge Advocate General's Corps. So I don't know what the stats are right now, but it was, I think when I graduated, there was 1,500 active duty attorneys, and I had about another 1,000 attorneys that were reserves or National Guard. So about 2,500 attorneys. And I was in the Army. I joined when I was 19, when I was a student at King's College. So I knew coming here that I was going to go back into the Army, but I was doing my best to get in the Army JAG Corps. And that was very, very competitive. And I know that the person who interviewed me was a guy, then Captain P.J. Perrone, who was a Widener Law graduate, and I found out about him. I knew he was interviewing. I found out he was a Widener Law graduate, and I found out what teachers that he had, and we hit it off and helped me get the job. But I will tell you that if that's what you want to do, and my one piece of advice to you is figure out what you want to do. I mean, I know some of you are extended division, but maybe you're going staying where you are now, or some of you are going to look to move somewhere else. But think about where you want to be 5, 10 years from now, and how to get there, and utilize the Widener connections that you have. Widener Law School is one of the largest law, I think it's the largest law school in Pennsylvania. So utilize that. And it's not necessarily calling people up and saying, hey, I'm applying for a job, can you give me a job? It's, hey, can I grab coffee with you and ask your advice? I'll pick your brain about a couple of things. Building that rapport, building that relationship. That's critically important. But it's also, for P.J. Perrone, when I was here, I would say it's also important, because I was on the other side of that. When I was a professor, when I was age 27 at West Point, when I left here, became a military prosecutor and then taught at West Point, and I could talk about that career arc if you cared to, but part of my job was interviewing law students at Columbia Law School, Fordham, New York Law School, NYU, and Quinnipiac. And when I interviewed law students, I knew we had about 200 applicants from those 5 law schools, and then I knew that we'd only probably pick maybe 4. And I knew that to put my top 4, I knew I had to put basically the top 4 who had a real serious shot about getting in the Army JAG Corps. I knew right away that it was usually a tough decision, picking between people. But I knew if someone didn't write me a thank you note afterwards, I knew that they were right off the list. It made it real easy for me. A lot of times in the position when people are interviewing, it's like, well, what can I do not to hire someone? Were they not polite, etc. But if you get an interview, you probably are qualified to get the job, meaning your grades are okay and everything else. Let me be very straight with you. My grades here at Widener were not that great. I struggled my first year. By the time I graduated, 3 years later, I was right in the middle of my class. I tried to write on the law review. I did not get accepted. So I did the Trial Advocacy Honor Society and did the Harrisburg Civil Law Clinic and was active with the St. Thomas More Society. But those are things that I did, that I cared about. And I would say to you that I understand you are very, very busy. Being a law student is very demanding. I would love to tell you, and law school, especially the first 2 years, were the hardest years. But I will tell you that it's not exactly that super easy when you leave here neither. Okay, because you're going to be practicing, you're going to be responsible for clients, and responsibilities, etc. But leaving here, you will have the foundations to do great things, if you choose to. So I would say to you, even being here, make sure that you have a can-do attitude. So one of my first jobs, I was going to the Army JAG Corps. My old man was a cop in Philadelphia. My mom was a secretary. I want to be a prosecutor. That's what I want to do. So when I met with P.J. Perrone, who was a Widener graduate, and I was asking him advice before I asked him for a job, I asked his advice. And I said, well, what do you think would make my application next year when I apply stronger? And he said, well, if you can go somewhere where it's a DA's office or somewhere you're getting trial experience where you could be in a courtroom, that usually sells to the board. Because it wasn't like he made the only decision. And so I had an opportunity. When I was here, I had an opportunity to work in the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office, where I would make $10 an hour, or I could work in the Philadelphia DA's office my first summer, making nothing, doing work study or something. And I picked the Philadelphia DA's office and knew neither one of them was where I wanted to go. I wanted to go in the Army JAG Corps. And that's why I did that. But I would just say to you, think about where you want to be, whether it's a year from now, 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now. Where do you want to be, and figure out how to get there.